kid driving the car. Nobody.
And as I run out in front, but I'm not quite done testing my fate with the police. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another Tesla Actually Smart Summon stress test video. Make sure you stick around to the end, because this is definitely a good one, and if you enjoy the video, make sure you remember to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Now the goal for today's video is to push Actually Smart Summon to its limits, and we're starting off easy at the Tesla dealership in Norfolk, Virginia, but as we go, the parking lots are going to get harder and harder, and we're going to push the car by summoning it through some of the toughest parking lots we can find that are even difficult for humans to drive through. And once we get done with that, we're going to do even more testing to see what would happen if you summon the car while you're still inside of a building. We're going to look to see if the car is paying any attention to hand signals, and then we're going to address people's main safety concerns, such as somebody running out from behind a parked car, or an object ending up in the car's travel path, and then we're going to take it a step further to see what it would take, or if it's even possible, for the car to hit someone while it's being summoned. Now all of that may sound a little extreme, but understand that all the testing that we did on people's safety concerns was done in a controlled environment, and also remember that the goal of today's video is to push Actually Smart Summon to its limits, and if people are going to feel comfortable to use this feature on a daily basis, these are questions that definitely need to be answered. So go grab some popcorn and a drink and sit back and enjoy the video. I think you'll get some good laughs as we go, and hopefully by the end, you'll be as mind blown as I am, and you'll feel more comfortable to go off and use this, because this truly is an amazing feature. So as we wrap up the first summon, like I said before, enjoy the video, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section, and thank you for watching. Okay, so in this video we're at Lowe's, but earlier on in the day I had backed into a parking spot at another location, and nobody had been parked behind me, and when I summoned the car, it actually reversed for forward visibility. Which is something that we hadn't seen the cars doing since early versions of Actually Smart Summon. So what I wanted to test out at Lowe's is if there is a car parked behind me, is it still going to make any effort to reverse for forward visibility, or will it just pull directly out of the parking spot? Okay, so the summon's getting ready to begin, and as you could see a moment ago when I backed in, there is a car directly behind us, and my car decides not to reverse for forward visibility, but we do get a moment of hesitation as we're pulling out of the parking spot, and I'm not sure if that has something to do with the fact that it didn't reverse for forward visibility, or maybe there was just something that wasn't in the camera frame that the car saw, and it just wanted to give an extra moment of caution. But one way or another, everything is going pretty smooth so far. It's doing a good job passing these people on the left without hesitation. And now we're coming up to the front of the store, and you can see that it's got its left turn signal on. Now the car is going to come to a complete stop, just to take a second to make sure that both directions are clear. Now we're moving forward. Now as we come across the front of the store, we do have a pretty funny interaction with some people leaving, so pay attention to the gray SUV over here on the left. They'll come back into play here in a second. And then we've got this guy over here on the right. I'm not sure that he knows what to think right now. But it can see that he's not going to move, and it goes ahead and passes by him. But now start paying attention to the people leaving the store, because this is pretty funny.
Oh my god, that car's driving itself! No one's in that car! They can wait!
So I did find the situation pretty interesting. You can't really tell looking at the camera, but we are pretty close to the SUV in front of us, and I wasn't sure if my car was going to try to go around them or not. I was kind of hoping that it would, because I thought that would be pretty cool for the video, but it decides to be patient and wait behind them. And then we got another person walking in front of the car, and I don't think she knows what to think either.
Hey, y'all look at the kid driving that car.
I know, I was like, what in the world?
No, it's more control. Somebody down there controlling it.
So now we're moving forward, and as you can hear, you got somebody in the background saying that I'm down here controlling the car remotely. I guess that's kind of true. I don't think it's really the way that they thought I was doing it, but overall, pretty good summon, some good reactions, and no issues here. Okay, so this is when things start to get good. Right now, we're in the back of a busy Target parking lot, and the main reason I came here is because as I was driving through, I noticed a police officer in a truck next to the entrance, and I've always wondered how the police would react to summon. So right now, we're backing out of our parking spot, and if you look at the screen recording, I actually step out of range of the summon, but I end up running back a little bit closer to fix that. And then you'll see the car actually say that it's waiting on pedestrians as these two people walk by and stare inside, kind of wondering what's happening. So now we're moving forward. Everything's looking pretty good so far, and like I said, you can see that we're in a pretty busy parking lot. And pay attention to the lady up here on the left. She takes note of the car pretty early on, and she actually pulls her phone out and starts to take a video as it goes by. So we're approaching the front of the store now. As usual, you'll see the car turn on its left turn signal here in a minute. And once we get up here, the car does pause for a second, and as I'm watching my phone screen, I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that, why it's hesitating. But then when it pulls out, I noticed that there was a car to the left, and it was clearly waiting to see whether or not they were going to cross in front of us. But as you can see, they turned down the road that was to the left of us. So next, the car stops for this stop sign on the weird hoop, and then it pauses again, and I didn't know why it was doing this either, but then this guy steps out from behind that sign, and I was pretty relieved to see the car catch on to him when I didn't even see him. So you could hear a pretty funny reaction from somebody there that realized the car was driving itself. And then over to the right, we've got the police officer in his truck who either doesn't notice or doesn't care that nobody's in the car. And then just a moment ago, you can hear another person over to the left ask, "Is that car driving itself?" So always some pretty funny reactions. Now you also may have noticed some harsh braking as that lady crossed the road. Not sure why that happened. So as we come to the end of this summon, I think that the car did a great job there, but I'm not quite done testing my fate with the police. Okay, so here we are again. We're in the same Target parking lot, we're just on the other side of the lot now. And like I said a second ago, I wasn't done tempting my fate with the police. I really wanted to see if I could get a reaction out of them. Plus, this was a really good parking lot because of how busy it was, so I wanted to give it another shot. So as we start the summon, you can see it is hesitant to back out of the parking spot, and I'm not entirely sure why. I don't know if it saw something behind us that we're just not seeing in the camera, but it does eventually start making its way out of the parking spot. Now immediately when we start going straight, we're going to have to kind of cross an entrance to the parking lot, and I was expecting the car to slow down, but it can see that the path is clear in both directions, and as you can see here in just a second, we end up crossing through here without any hesitation at all. So after we cross that little road, we do pass these two people on the right who are loading stuff into the back of their car. It doesn't seem to have any issue with them and continues on just fine. Now up here in a second, we will get slowed down for some other cars that are waiting to get parking spots and trying to get out of the parking lot. And once this silver van pulls forward, you'll see a family come out from behind it, and I think that they find it a little bit creepy that there's nobody in the car.
It's a little freaky.
It is creepy as creepy gets.
Not me.
Now I've heard a lot of different reactions. Creepy hasn't been one of them, but I do get where they're coming from. Now pay attention to this SUV on the left and watch my steering wheel turn to the right and give them room to come through. I've seen the car do this a bunch of times and it always does a great job of it. Now here we are directly in front of that police officer right now, and once again in the camera I really can't tell whether or not he notices us or not, but we do end up having to stop at this stop sign right in his line of sight, so he either doesn't notice us or doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Now, we do a great job of letting all the pedestrians come by, and watch to our left. Now obviously a bunch of them notice that there's nobody in the car, and if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of hard to hear, but I think we had a second person say that it's creepy, so that's pretty funny to get that twice in the same run. But anyway, As we come to the end of this one, it doesn't look like we're going to get any more pedestrian interactions, but I think the car did a great job overall, and while we weren't able to get a reaction from the police officer, it was still fun to give it a shot. Okay, so I did forget to screen record my phone on this one, but for the next few clips, we're in the parking lot of a Trader Joe's. I wanted to come here because it's usually pretty busy, and it's a tight parking lot. So in this one, we've got a curb to our left, and we've got a truck behind us that's sticking forward out of their spot, so it doesn't leave us a whole lot of room. And you'll see somebody walking up here from the left, and she does notice that there's nobody in the car, and she gives it quite a curious look as she walks by. So the car starts to move forward now, but it does realize that it doesn't have quite enough room to complete that turn, so it does put itself in reverse. And now when it moves forward, it's got plenty of room. Now for the next few clips, I do intentionally position ourselves right in front of the Trader Joe's so that we've got people walking out directly at the car, and we've got people crossing the road coming from stores to the left and right. I thought that might be a good challenge coming through here. And as we get ready to pull right out of this row, you'll notice a family come out of the Trader Joe's, and the lady on the right definitely realizes that there's nobody in the car. But I can't really make out if she says anything other than, huh? But anyway, the car does a great job handling all the pedestrians through there. And as we pass by this Total Wine on the left, somebody does walk out, and you'll notice the car kind of start to slow down because she looks over at the road like she's getting ready to cross, but it watches her for a minute, determines that she's not planning on crossing, and then it continues on perfectly. So as usual, I'm up here in the distance on the right, and like before, I'm just trying to walk a little bit further and see if we can get any other interactions from people coming in or out of stores, but we don't end up getting anybody else in this particular clip, so I do decide to go ahead and call this one quits, and we end up going back to that same row a couple of more times to see what other kind of interactions we can get. Okay, so like I said before, we are back at Trader Joe's again, and this time I did remember to screen record my phone. So we're backing out of our parking spot right now, and at the same exact time we start backing out, the truck in front of us backs out of their parking spot, but that doesn't seem to have any impact on the car at all. So we do a nice job backing out. So now we're starting to move forward, and the car does have a moment of hesitation as it moves forward, and I'm not entirely sure why, but it ends up going forward just fine. And I do find it funny, we have quite a few people walking towards the car, but miraculously, they all turn away and walk the other direction before they can notice it, so we don't get any reaction out of them. But watch the lady pushing the cart that's coming out of the store, she clearly notices it, and has a pretty funny face as we pass by. So now we've got another man coming up on the right over here. He notices that there's nobody in it, and decides, heck no, I'm not crossing in front of that thing, he's just gonna wait. So the car does a good job continuing on, and then we got some people coming out of Total Wine on the left. The car does slow down for them, and they notice it, but they don't really say anything, or if they do, you can't hear it. So probably the funniest reaction for this entire clip is the lady crossing over here on the right. She definitely notices it, and clearly doesn't know what to think. No matter how many times you use this, the reactions are always priceless, and at least for me, they've been overwhelmingly positive, so I do enjoy seeing people's amazement when they see the car driving itself. Now on this particular clip, I do decide to kind of walk down another row and see how the car does following me through there. I just wanted to try something different instead of having it pull over in front of the store, but it doesn't yield any crazy result, and I do decide to go give it one more try at this Trader Joe's just to see if we can get another challenge. Okay, so here we go one last time at Trader Joe's, and this time there's quite a bit going on around us as we're backing out of our spot. We've got this truck over here on the right, which is sticking forward out of the spot quite a bit. We've got a person walking up behind us, I think pushing a shopping cart, and then we've got another car coming up to our left behind us that's waiting to drive past. but the car handles all of that very well, and despite being kind of close to the truck when it pulled forward, determines that it has enough room and continues on. So as we move forward, we do get some funny reactions this time around. So after we pass this lady on the left, start paying attention to the people standing on the right and the lady with the cart on the left. You can see them all notice it around the same time, and one of them even starts looking around trying to figure out who's controlling the car.
What?
So we'll talk more about that in a second, but notice the car pause right here. I wasn't quite sure why it was doing it, but then I saw that lady who's crossing the road directly in front of us, and I just hadn't noticed her when I was watching my phone screen before. But yeah, that interaction we had a few moments ago was definitely pretty funny. You heard the one girl say, "What? Is that even allowed?" And funny interactions like those is what makes doing Summon worth it, despite it being very nerve-wracking. So overall, I'm going to call Trader Joe's a success. Like I said earlier, it's usually a pretty busy and tight parking lot, and all 3 times I tried it, it handled it perfectly. So no real complaints there. And you do see right here the car pause for that man on the right. He decides to end up walking behind the car instead of going in front of it. The car does a good job proceeding past him. And once again, I try walking down a row instead of just having it pull over in front of a store. And it does another good job following me through here. Now, one of the things I was paying attention to, I had the car pretty close to the side of the road already as it was stopping to pick me up, and I wanted to see how close it would get to that curb when it turned right, but it did a great job keeping its distance. Alright, you sick people, I know this is what you're here to see. We're back at Costco for the redemption run, and let me tell you, this place was an absolute madhouse the day that I filmed this video. I drove around for about 10 to 15 minutes before I was even able to find a spot, but I did end up getting pretty lucky and I got one in the back of the parking lot. And what I like about where we're at is one of the first things we've got to do is cross this really busy street that we're coming up to. Now this is not a public road, this is part of the Costco parking lot, but nonetheless it is very busy back here. So one of the first things you'll notice is the red SUV to our left does leave room for us to come through, but this maroon car right in front of us is kind of blocking our path. And you can see my car turn to the left a little bit to go around, but then it's got to stop and wait for this black car in front of us to turn down the road that we were just in, and now it's clear for us to go. So in my opinion, the car handled that situation about as perfectly as it could, and everything is going really well up until this point, except for my nerves, which are totally shot. I was so nervous that I forgot to screen record my phone, so I apologize for that. But if you watched my last video, the car lost connection every single time I tried to summon it in this parking lot, and I was so nervous that that was going to happen again that I could hardly even think straight. So right now, you'll see a lady stepping out from behind 2 cars to our right. My car pauses and waits to figure out where she's going, and once it sees that she's not crossing in front of it, it continues on. But here in a second, I want you to pay attention to this silver SUV coming up from our left. They end up getting in front of us and stopping, and the lady driving it looks over, and I'm not sure if she notices that nobody's in my car, or if she just decided that she wanted to turn down the road that we're in. But one way or another, she puts her car in reverse, and the moment she starts going backwards, my car asserts itself and takes the right of way, and I think that was really well handled. So now we're coming up to the front of the store, and by far the most nerve-wracking part of the whole video. There's always a ton of people walking in and out of the store, lots of people pushing shopping carts, kids walking around and running around with their parents. So we'll see how it does coming through here. Now the first funny reaction we get is this man walking up from the entrance to the store now. He notices that there's nobody in the car and he has something to say about it. So as we come across the front of the store, we do end up having a couple of funny interactions. I always find it comical when people wave at the car and there's nobody in it, especially when they don't even realize that nobody's in it. So up here in a second, you'll see a couple of people cross pushing their cart and they wave at the car. And I'm really not sure that they ever notice that nobody's driving. But then we've got this girl walking up from the right. She waves and then she kind of takes off running, so I do think we freaked her out a bit. But now we're crossing the main entrance to the store, and everything is being handled really well at this point. So you can see this man, I'm not really sure that he notices. He's definitely taking his time crossing, so even if he did notice, he's definitely not concerned. But anyways, we're coming up to the end of this first run at Costco, and I can't express to you how relieved I was to have this over with. But I did decide to do another run, and if you thought that this one was good, definitely stick around and check out the next one, because that one was really crazy. So you can see me up here on the right, the car is pulling over to pick me up, and overall it handled this one pretty much flawlessly. Okay, so here we go for a second run at Costco, and let me tell you, it was not in my plan to do this. I planned to do one and done and get the heck out, but after doing the first one, I decided to go ahead and try it one more time just for the video, and I am so glad that I did. There is a lot to unpack in this next clip. This is by far my favorite summon video that I've ever filmed, and I'll start off by pointing out how we're parked. So if you look at my screen, or the visualization on my screen in the car, you'll notice that I'm way off to the right of my parking spot, because the SUV to our left is parked kind of crooked in their spot. They're kind of overlapping into ours, and they're sticking out of the back of the spot. And this ended up working out perfectly for the video, because my car has got to back out past them and have room to turn left and come up to the front of the store. So it's starting off challenging immediately. And you'll notice that we're just kind of sitting here at this point because this SUV behind us pulls up and stops behind us while they're waiting for another spot. And the funny thing is, when the other spot opens up, they don't even take it, they just drive right past it and continue on. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the point that that happens, and then we'll continue. Okay, so after about a minute or two of waiting, that spot finally opens up, and like I said before, if you look down at the screen recording on my phone, the person who's been waiting behind us for it ends up driving right past it. But anyway, now it's finally time for us to back out of our spot, and like I had said a few minutes ago, I was a little bit concerned about the SUV parked to our left because they were kind of sticking over into our spot and sticking out of the back of their spot. But my car does a great job clearing them when it's backing out and is able to make it out with no issue. Now, there's two people I want you to start paying attention to. The first one is the guy in the green jacket who's about to step out from behind the two parked cars. He'll come back into play here in a bit. But focus in on the lady with the red jacket, whose daughter is in the cart and realizes that nobody's driving the car, and really starts trying to get her mom's attention, but her mom just won't turn around and look. Now the mom finally does end up turning around and seeing that her daughter was right, that nobody was driving the car, and there's another guy standing to her left right now who ends up pulling out his phone and taking a picture. But what I'm going to do for this run is I'm going to show it once where we just focus on all the funny reactions that we get as we go along the front of the store, but then I'm going to replay it again and we're going to talk about all the really impressive things that the car did as it navigated through here. Now if you remember the guy in the green jacket that I pointed out earlier, he's been following us this whole time and is getting ready to come back into play, and he obviously knows that Teslas are going to become robo-taxis.
That's crazy.
Now as you can see, we're getting some pretty funny reactions coming through here, and it's still not over yet.
Hey, look who's driving the car. Nobody.
Fantastic. Done.
Oh, Dad, those are really good. Dad, look, Dad.
So like I said before, we got a lot of good reactions throughout this one, and I think some of my favorites are when kids realize that there's nobody driving. But now, I want to go replay this whole portion again, and instead of focusing on the reactions, I want to focus on what the car actually had to do to get to this point. Okay, so we're replaying that whole portion again, and like I said this time, we're going to focus on the technical stuff that the car has to do to get to me. And the first thing we'll look at is this white car that's turning in front of us. Notice my car turn the steering wheel sharply to the right to make room for them to come through. And then look at the red car directly in front of us that's backing out of its parking spot. And at first I thought we were kind of close to them, but looking back at the visualization on my screen, I see that there was a lot more room than I had originally thought. So as we come through here, we've got the man over to our right with the orange vest on who's pushing the shopping carts. And then if you look at the visualization, the guy in the green jacket that I had pointed out earlier, he's actually starting to come up beside the car right now. So we've got a lot of vehicles and a lot of pedestrians surrounding us, and the car is handling it just fine. So here in a minute, this white SUV starts moving forward, but notice we don't even budge. Because of the lady coming in from the left, I thought that was really impressive that it saw her so early. And then we've got the couple pushing the shopping cart to the right, and you can tell my car is proceeding with caution just in case they decide to cross in front of it. And now we've got the lady in the red jacket crossing, and the tan truck to the left sees this as an opportunity to move through, and my car does a great job yielding to him. Now pay really close attention to this next move that the car makes. Did you catch it? Let's go back and watch that again, because I think this is single-handedly the most impressive part of this entire video. This time, pay really close attention to this white SUV to our right, where I've got the arrow pointed at. Notice how the millisecond the wheels of that shopping cart appear under the back bumper of that white SUV, my car immediately starts slowing down to let this couple cross over in front of us. Let's watch that back one more time. That moment impressed me so much that it actually inspired the testing that we're getting ready to do, where we look to see just how quickly Summon does react to people stepping out from behind parked cars. Now on top of that, there are just a ton of pedestrians around us right now, and the car so confidently handles going around them, even having to squeeze between that tan truck and other oncoming traffic in front of the store. So, I'm really glad I ended up doing this second run at Costco, even though my nerves could hardly handle it, but I would say that overall, these two runs were about as good of a redemption as we could possibly get from the last video. Now make sure that you stick around, because we're getting ready to go do some more very interesting testing. So in this next section, we're going to be testing out a bunch of different scenarios, some of them to address people's safety concerns, like what happens if somebody runs out from behind a parked car while your car is being summoned, how much attention does it actually pay to people's body movements that look like they might step out in front of the car. We're going to throw some objects out into the car's travel path and see if it reacts to them, and then we're also just going to put some objects in the road and see if it will go around them. So in this first one, we're going to be testing out running out from behind a parked car. So I'll be standing behind that white truck, and there's a target set in the app to summon the car past us, and as it's coming past, I'm going to run out at the last second and see how quickly the car reacts. And to everybody watching, I do want to ensure you that I was ready at a moment's notice to lift my finger off of the button in the app, which would make the car immediately come to a stop, ensuring that everything remained safe throughout the whole time that we were filming this section. So here we go with the first test. The car is headed towards the truck. You can see my feet under it. I'm ready to run out as soon as it gets ready to pass. And here I come, and you can see the car reacts almost immediately and does a great job coming to a stop. And even as I turn around and go back in front of it, it stays still. So we're going to try that scenario out a couple more times to see how it does. Here we go with the second run. Once again, you can see me behind the truck. And as I run out in front, it once again does a great job coming to a stop. Okay, so here we go one last time with this test. You can see me standing behind the white truck, and as my car passes by, it once again does a great job coming to a stop. Now we tested this exact scenario about 15 to 20 times, and every single time the car did a great job, but you should still always be extremely cautious when using Summon, and when in doubt, just lift your finger off the button, because it's always better safe than sorry. But hopefully this testing does show you that summon is pretty safe and it is pretty unlikely to hit somebody, although I certainly cannot say that that's impossible. So in these next couple clips, we're going to be throwing a pair of shoes out in front of the car as it passes by, and I can't say that this has the same result as when I ran out in front of the car. So you do see it come to a stop there, but that was not because of the shoes. That was from me lifting my finger off of the button after the car was already on top of them. We wanted to try it out one more time throwing the shoes out in front of the car, this time without me lifting my finger off the button so soon. And as you can see, we still get the same result. It doesn't react to them at all. Here's a pretty quick clip of me trying to block one of the repeater cameras to see if the car reacts. I can say in earlier versions of Summon, this definitely would have caused an abort, but this time, the car didn't even react to it. Okay, so in this next one, we're going to be trying out hand signals. So you see me getting ready to step out in front of it, and I try to wave the car past when it stops, but it's not having any of it. You do see a couple quick flashes of the path planner on the screen like it's thinking about moving, but it ends up waiting for me to pass by before it goes. And then I decided after that, I wanted to see what would happen if I ran up towards the side of the car, and as you can see on the visualization, it sees me and it does come to a stop. Okay, so we're going to try hand signals one more time. This time I'm a little bit further away and I actually step into the travel path of the car and try to wave it by, but you can see, once again, it's not having any of it, and it waits for me to step out of its way before it'll move forward. But now I wanted to see what happens if it just looks like I'm going to step into its path. And you can see it does a good job stopping. I try it again, it does a great job the second time, and then I walk forward a little bit until it starts moving and try a third time, and once again it does great, but I think I made it mad that time around because it aborted the entire summon and then it wouldn't even move. Okay, so now we're going to test out putting some items in the car's travel path to see if it'll go around them. Right now we've got a big thermos out there, and you can see the second that I engage, the car immediately steers to the left and goes around it. Okay, so we're trying the thermos out one more time. You can see I've kind of got it put down in the middle of the row, so the car can either go around it to the left, or it could squeeze between it and the truck on the right. But as we get closer, you'll see it make some pretty interesting decisions. At first it looks like it's committing to go around it on the left, then it kind of looks like it's going to go to the right, and it does end up avoiding it by going around to the left, but it was a little bit close. But one of the things I do find interesting about this one is even though the thermos is pretty small, it was visualized on the display as a pretty big blob. So after successfully avoiding the thermos twice, we wanted to see if it would avoid a smaller object, so I've put a Gatorade bottle out in the middle of the row, and really I don't even think the car needed to do anything to avoid it during this one, but you'll see here at the last second, it does kind of steer off to the right, so obviously the car did see it, but once again, I'm not really sure that it even needed to do that. Okay, this time I've got the Gatorade bottle directly in front of the car, and you can see it doesn't even try to avoid it, it ends up running right over it. So we're going to try it one more time. Okay, so this time we give the car a little bit more room, and I intentionally placed the Gatorade where the sun was shining, and you can see the car does make an effort to avoid it, but it ends up actually running it over with the front right wheel and blowing the Gatorade up, so we thank the Gatorade for its sacrifice. The last few clips in this parking lot, I wanted to test out if somebody smaller or maybe a child ran out from behind a parked car, so you can see me on the right crouched over trying to simulate that, and once again, the car does a great job coming to a stop. Okay, so I wanted to try that one more time, and this time I am a little bit further away. And as you can see, same result, the car does a good job coming to a stop. Okay, so this last one may be a little bit ridiculous, but I'm actually laying on the ground, and you'll see me roll out from behind the parked truck, and the car still does a great job coming to a stop. So like I said, yeah, that might have been a little bit ridiculous, but one of my goals here was to test every possible scenario to see if the car would even come close to actually hitting someone. And while in my testing, it did not come close, like I said earlier, please always be extremely cautious when using Summon. Even though it's very good, you should always lift your finger off the button when in doubt. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Okay, so in this last part of the video, we're just going to be testing what happens if you summon the car to you while you're still inside of a building. And my thought process here is that this is how a lot of people are going to want to use Summon, especially if it's a cold, wet, rainy, even snowy day. People are going to want to be able to stand inside of the door, summon the car to them, and just have it meet them in front of the store. Okay, so as you can see from the screen recording on my phone, the GPS actually thinks I'm standing out in front of the store, and I had this issue a couple of weeks ago when I tried this, and instead of coming and meeting me in front of the store, the car actually drove to the middle of the parking lot, and I was thinking that the issue had something to do with the store blocking the GPS signal, so I wanted to try it a couple more times and see if we had the same result. So I'm standing pretty far inside of the Dollar Tree right now, but you can see it does a great job coming up here. It kind of pulls over in front of some parked cars and comes to a stop, and in my book, this was actually pretty acceptable. Okay, so I wanted to test this a couple more times, seeing what would happen if I summoned the car to me while I was still inside of a building. Right now, we're at a CVS, and you can see on my phone screen recording that the little GPS bubble that's supposed to show where I'm at actually has me standing out front of the store, even though I'm probably about 20 foot inside and I'm in the middle of a shopping aisle. But anyway, it's not a bad place for it to have the bubble. At least we know then it will bring my car to the front door. But here in a second, you can start seeing it expand, and it kind of loses track of where I'm at, but that doesn't seem to throw the car off this time. So we've got this van coming around the corner, we gotta kind of squeeze between them and the curb, and as it comes around, it does end up stopping right in front of the front door, exactly where I would have wanted it to, and so I guess we can say this one was successful as well. Okay, so here goes the last clip of the video, and once again, we're trying to summon the car to us while we're still inside of a building, and this is one of the stores that I had an issue with in the past when I tried this, so we'll see how it works out this time. And if you look at the screen recording on my phone, it kinda almost has me in the parking lot next door, but we'll watch along and see what happens. But as we come up to the end of the video, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's watched the entire thing. Don't forget to give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. And also, if you're looking to buy a Tesla, I do have my referral code down in the description. It can get you up to a couple $1,000s off of a brand new Tesla. So here we go, we're coming up to the front of the store now, and even though the GPS does look confused at times about where I'm at, the car does a good job of coming up and stopping in front of the door, exactly where I wanted it to. But I do want to say, while it did work out all 3 times that I tried it in this video, I encourage you to be very careful using Summon while you're still inside of a building, especially if you're distracted and you can't look at your phone screen, because when I had tried this in the past, it did not work out as well as it did in this video. But as I said before, thanks to everybody who stuck around and watched the entire video. As you can hopefully tell from watching, Summon is pretty amazing, and the only issue I had the entire time while filming this video was one time in an apartment complex parking lot. When I tried to summon the car out of the parking spot, it said that it was on a public road and that it couldn't do it, but that wasn't even safety critical, so I didn't really sweat it all that much. But anyway, like I was saying, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Okay, I lied. I do have one last thing. As I was pulling out of the final parking lot, I saw a Cybertruck parked over here with a pretty cool looking wrap and figured this would be a nice way to end the video out. I've seen a lot of different wraps on Cybertrucks, but not quite one that looks like this. I'm not even really sure what you would call this color, but I do think it looks pretty nice. But anyway, as I keep on saying, thanks for watching the entire video, and I'll see you in the next one.